This morning we're with Terry Byrne and Tom Fagan in the St. Joe's organ or choir loft to talk a little bit about the history and the function of our current organ. Terry, is this the only organ that we've had at St. Joe's?
Actually not, Chris. This is the fourth organ that we've had at St. Joseph's Church. The first organ was purchased in 1862, and it was done through a fundraising effort. We don't have much detail about the organ that was bought then, but we do know it was not an electric organ, so it really required a lot of manual manipulation. In 1892, the organ was sold to the University of Ottawa for the college chapel, because at that time, in 1892, St. Joe's was building its second church. When the church was opened in 1893, they had purchased a new organ from the Casavant brothers in St. Hyacinthe, Quebec. And they spent $6,500 on that particular organ. Now, they fundraised from 1892 to 1893 to purchase it, and it was fully paid for when they opened the church in 1893. In today's dollars, that would be equivalent to $151,000 that they raised over a period of 18 months. That organ was used in the church up till 1930. And because the quality of our choirs at that time was so phenomenal, they figured that they had to have a better quality organ to work with the choirs. So they bought the third organ from the Franklin Legg Organ Company in Toronto. But what's interesting about this one, again, it cost close to $10,000 for this organ, the third organ, which would be equivalent to about $131,000 in today's dollars. But it only lasted 6 months. And the reason for that was on December 27th, 1930, St. Joe's Church burnt down and the organ was destroyed. Then in 1933, we bought the fourth organ. And I'll switch it over to Tom Fagan to talk about our present organ.
So we're here with Tom as well in the organ loft. And Tom, a lot of our parishioners probably don't have a very detailed idea of the functioning of an organ. Can you give us an idea of what's involved in playing an organ? What are some of the key elements?
Well, this organ, which was built in 1932 for a cost of $11,400, has 1,479 pipes. The pipes that we see here don't play. Often, in organs that have a larger facade, some or all the pipes play. Those pipes don't play. All our pipes are hidden in the room behind. There are three manuals. There's the great organ, there's the swell organ, and the choir organ. The swell and the choir are under expression, which means that they're in boxes, closed boxes, that have louvers, and these pedals, this would open the choir, so it makes the same sound go louder. The same for the swell. Now, the third pedal here is what we call a crescendo pedal. It opens all the stops progressively. And if you see, I just pushed this button, which brings on the great 4-foot, which means this is 8-foot stops. When I push this to bring on the 4, it brings on these stops. If I were to push 16, it brings on these notes down here. So when Terry talked about the organ that needed a lot of manual manipulation, this organ has features like this, where you just push a button and it brings on some of the stops. You can change. It also has toe pistons. And I want to demonstrate two things at once. People often ask, well, do you have to play all manuals at once? And the answer is no. So I'm going to play the first part of a hymn, and I'll show you what can be done. Especially for a new hymn, or for some variety, I will put the tune up here. Otherwise, hymns are usually played on one manual. Down the stops from here and from here for variety. So that's the purpose of these buttons here and for these buttons.
Now, what would you say would be the estimated value of an organ like this today?
It was insured for $750,000 to rebuild it. If you'd want the same organ, I suspect it would cost $1 million or more. It's a valuable instrument. It's also valuable because it hasn't been touched. Now we are going to add a mixture, which is a stop that will help with congregational singing, because our organ is a little muddy, and so often I have to play up the octave. So a mixture is going to add harmonics to the sound, mainly for congregational singing and for playing Bach, because Bach had mixtures on the organ way back then. I'm not sure why they didn't add them here. They also added bells or chimes everywhere, including on the pedal. So we're going to use the chime stop on the grate here and replace that with the mixture stop. We could also add stops here on the swell, keep chimes on one of the manuals, but we don't need them everywhere, especially on my toes.
So that's going to be a significant upgrade to the organ, but what would you say would be the ongoing work of ensuring that it's in good working order?
Keeping it tuned, especially in a church where the heat varies, especially in the summertime, because that can make the reeds go wonky, out of tune. So a reed is a trumpet stop, or an oboe, or a clarinet. And those can go out of tune very quickly because they're reeds. So one of the tricks is to keep the heat constant as much as we can. The other one is to keep the boxes open so the whole organ's under the same temperature. Because once you close these boxes, all the pipes from the choir or the swell go into a closed room, and they're under a different temperature than the great organ, which is not under expression or not closed.
Well, that's a lot of new information, I think, for our parishioners on the organ and how it works and the complexity of this instrument. We still have Terry here with us right now, and I think Terry was looking at maybe offering another anecdote from our church's history relating to some of what we heard today.
Yes, Chris. One of the 1999-2000, we had a woman cleaning the pews in the church, and she was in the church all by herself. And all of a sudden, she heard a bang. And she looked around, looking through the church for the bang. She couldn't find out where it came from. So she went back to cleaning the pews. Then she heard bang, bang, bang. She was terrified. She ran into the rectory, asked Melissa to come and check it out with her. Melissa couldn't hear the banging, so she went back to her office. Terry went back to cleaning the pews, only to hear the bang twice more. This time she said, I'm not going back in the church. So Gary and Melissa investigated, and what they found out was that in the organ pipe room, there is a ladder that goes to the tower. And at the top of the tower, there's a trap door. and that trap door was not locked, and the wind kept lifting the door up and slamming it back down, and that was causing all the noise reverberating through the church.
Must have been a frightful experience. I appreciate the anecdote, Terry. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Terry, and thank you, Tom, as well, for participating in today's history segment for our parish.
Thank you.